The notion of correspondence occurs frequently in our everyday life. So for example, in every car, there is a corresponding plate number. Or in every human being, merong corresponding na unique thumb mark. And that is actually an example of a function. A function f mapping C to D is a correspondence or a rule which assigns each x which is in C to exactly one element y which is in D. In this given function, set C is called the domain of the function, and set D is called the codomain of the function. The variable y is called the image of x under f, and sometimes this is also called f of x. So yun yung magiging result kapag pinasok na natin doon sa function yung x natin. So yun yung magiging output. So yung range naman natin is manggagaling sa D, kung saan ang laman niya is all the possible values of f of x, where x is from our domain C. So we may think of a function as machine that does work. So there is an input, let's say yung x, and then there is an output which is y, or the f of x. So dito sa function natin, though f is often used as the name of the function and x as the independent variable, pwede namang kahit anong letter ang gamitin natin for the function. Let's say g of x, okay? Or h of r, okay? This means that h is our function and r is the independent variable. So any letter of choice will do. So now let's evaluate a function. We let g of x be equal to 2x squared minus 3x with domain of g equals the set of real numbers. So let's find g of negative 1, g of 4m, and g of r minus 2. So how do we evaluate a function? So when we say g of negative 1, we just have to replace x by negative 1. So that becomes 2 times negative 1 squared minus 3 times negative 1. Or that is now 2 times 1 minus 3 times negative 1. If we multiply, that is 2 plus 3 or 5. The same is true with g of 4m. So we will replace x with 4m. So we have g of 4m equals 2 times 4m squared minus 3 times 4m, or that is 2 times, so distribute natin yung squared doon sa dalawa, we have 16m squared, then minus 3 times 4m. By multiplying, that is 32m squared minus 12m. And for letter C, ganun ulit, we replace x with r minus 2. So we have g of r minus 2 is equal to 2 times r minus 2 squared minus 3 times r minus 2. Now, if we expand this, ano bang expansion nito? By binomial expansion, that is square the first, so r squared, minus 2 times yung dalawang terms. We have r and 2. Then plus, we square the last term, which is 2 squared. Or that is now r squared minus 4r plus 4. Then we multiply by 2. Then dito naman sa kabila, minus 3 times r minus 2. Distributing 2 dito sa ating expression and yung negative 3 doon sa kabila, we now have 2r squared minus 8r plus 8. So, since negative to, mag-change ng sign, negative 3r plus 6. Combining like terms, we have 2r squared, negative 8r minus 3r is negative 11r, 8 plus 6 is positive 14. So we have 2r squared minus 11r plus 14. Now we also have operations on functions. We let f and g be functions. Then f plus g of x is actually equal to the sum of the individual functions. So that is f of x plus g of x. Also, with subtraction, f minus g of x is equal to f of x minus g of x. For product, f times g of x is equal to f of x times g of x. And for quotient, f over g of x is equal to f of x over g of x, where the denominator should not be equal to 0. Note that these properties also applies to any number of functions. Kahit tatlo pa yan, kahit apat pa yan, or whatsoever. Or any combination ng operation. Pwedeng plus and minus, pinagsama niya. Now, let's have an example. We let f of x be equal to x squared plus 3x minus 4 and g of x equals 2x minus 2. Now, let's find these four operations, the sum of f and g, the difference between g and f, the product of f and g, and the quotient between f and g. So, for our a, we know that f plus g of x is equal to f of x plus g of x. Note that kung ano yung nauna dito, yun din dapat yung mauuna doon. And what is f of x? Diba ito lang yon? What is g of x? Ito lang yon. So by substituting, we have x squared plus 3x minus 4 plus 2x minus 2. Ngayon, pag tinanggal natin yung grouping symbol, wala namang mag-change kasi plus naman yung ating operation. So we have x squared plus 3x minus 4 plus 2x minus 2. By combining like terms, we have x squared, then 3x plus 2x is 5x, then negative 4 minus 2 is negative 6. So we have x squared plus 5x minus 6. For letter B, g minus f of x. So tulad ng sabi ko kanina, kung ano yung nauna dito, yun din dapat yung mauuna doon. So we have g of x minus f of x. But what is g of x? Ito yon. F of x? Ito yon. So by substituting, we have 2x minus 2 minus x squared plus 3x minus 4. By removing the grouping symbol, note that minus yung operation dito. So, para tayong magdidistribute ng negative 1 dito sa loob. So, mag-change siya ng sign. So, we now have 2x minus 2 minus x squared minus 3x plus 4. Then, by combining like terms, we have negative x squared. 2x minus 3x is negative x. Negative 2 plus 4 is positive 2. So, we have negative x squared minus x plus 2. For our letter C, f times g of x is equal to f of x times g of x. So if we substitute, that is x squared plus 3x minus 4 times 2x minus 2. So we have x squared times 2x is 2x cubed. X squared times negative 2 is negative 2x squared. Then we have 3x times 2x is 6x squared. 3x times negative 2 is negative 6x. And finally, negative 4 times 2x is negative 8x. Negative 4 times negative 2 is positive 8. By combining like terms, we have 2x cubed. So 2x cubed lang siya. Negative 2x squared plus 6x squared is positive 4x squared. Negative 6x minus 8x is negative 14x. Then we have 8. So the final answer is 2x cubed plus 4x squared minus 14x plus 8. And for the last, f over g of x, that is just equal to f of x over g of x. So we have x squared plus 3x minus 4 all over 2x minus 2. So i-check natin kung yun bang numerator natin ay factorable. So, think of a number na kapag pinag-multiply is negative 4. Okay, multiply yan. Pag pinag-add ay positive 3. So, that is negative 1 and 4. Negative 1 times 4 is negative 4. Negative 1 plus 4 is 3. So, correct. Therefore, ang factor nung taas natin is x minus 1 times x plus 4. Yun namang sa baba natin, pwede lang nating ilabas yung 2. So, factor out lang natin yung, and this can be cancelled out, which leaves us with x plus 4 all over 2. Next, i-combine natin yung evaluating at saka operations on functions. So, we let f of x equals 5x minus 3 and g of x equals x squared minus 5. Let's find g plus f of negative 1, f minus g of 3, f times g of 1, and g over f of negative 2. So for our solution in A, g plus f of negative 1 is equal to g of negative 1 plus f of negative 1. So we can evaluate g, ito, at negative 1, and then plus, i-evaluate din natin yung f at negative 1. That is, so negative 1 squared minus 5, tapos 5 times negative 1 minus 3. If we simplify, that is 1 minus 5 plus negative 5 minus 3, or that is negative 4 plus negative 8. So that is negative 4 minus 8, or negative 12. For letter B naman, f minus g of 3 is equal to f of 3 minus g of 3. So, pwede nating evaluate ito at 3 and ito at 3. So, that is now 5 times 3 minus 3 minus the quantity 3 squared minus 5. Or that is 15 minus 3 minus the quantity 9 minus 5. 15 minus 3 is 12. Minus 9 minus 5 is 4. So, we have 12 minus 4, or 8. For letter C, f times g of 1 is just equal to f of 1 times g of 1. So, f of 1 is 5 times 1 minus 3. G of 1 is 1 squared minus 5. So, that is 5 minus 3 times 1 minus 5, or that is 2 times negative 4, or negative 8. And finally, g over f of negative 2 is just equal to g of negative 2 over f of negative 2. Since ini-evaluate natin yung function, we have to check kung yung denominator ba natin ay magzi-zero or not. So, checking f of negative 2, that is 5 times negative 2 minus 3, or that is negative 10 minus 3, or negative 13. So, valid ito since hindi naman 0 yung denominator natin. So, we now have negative 2 squared minus 5 over, so nakita na natin kanina, this is negative 13 yung denominator, or that is 4 minus 5 over negative 13, or 1 over 13. Now, let's evaluate g of x equals 2x squared minus 3x. Now, let g of x equals 2x squared minus 3x, then find g of x plus h minus g of x all over h, where h is not equal to 0. So, for our solution, we evaluate g at x plus h and then at x. So, that becomes g of x plus h is 2 times x plus h squared. Okay, pinalitan natin ito ng x plus h. Minus 3 times x plus h. Pinalitan din natin ito ng x plus h. Minus, so ito, g of x lang siya. So, 2 times x squared minus 3x. Actually, parehas lang dito. Then, divide all of that by h. Now, expanding x plus h squared using the a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. So, we have 2 times x squared plus 2xh plus h squared minus 3 times x plus h, then minus, eto naman, 2x squared minus 3x, then divide that by h. So ngayon, ipasok natin yung mga constants by distributing dito sa loob, ito sa loob. Okay, so we have 2x squared plus 4xh plus 2h squared minus ito magiging 3x minus 3h minus 2x squared minus 3x. Then divide everything by h. By removing the grouping symbol, we now have 2x squared plus 4xh plus 2h squared minus 3x minus 3h minus 2x squared plus 3x. Kasi negative to. So, mag-change ng sign yung nasa loob. Then, divide everything by h. Kita ninyo na matatanggal ito, tsaka ito, tsaka ito, which leaves us with 4xh plus 2h squared minus 3h over h. Observe that in our numerator, every term has an h. So, pwede natin ngayon siyang i-factor out. That is h times 4x plus 2h minus 3 all over h. Eto magka-cancel kasi magiging 1 lang yan, which leaves us with 4x plus 2h minus 3. And the last operation is called the composite function or composition of functions. So we let f and g be functions. Then the composite function f circle g is defined as f circle g of x is equal to f of g of x. So dito parang ine-enclose ni f yung g natin. Kaya nga f circle g. Okay? Gagamitin natin yung g of x to evaluate our f. Note that the domain of f circle g, so yung domain ng f circle g natin, is the set of all x in the domain of g. Okay, the set of all x in the domain of g such that g of x is in the domain of f. So parang ang sinasabi lang nito, yung domain ng f circle g natin depends on the domain of the inner function g. Kung ano yung domain ng g of x, yun yung maglilimit nung domain ng f circle g natin. So we let f of x be equal to x squared plus 3x minus 4 and g of x equals x minus 2. Then find f circle g of x and its domain, g circle f of x and its domain, and g circle f of 3. For letter A, f circle g of x is just, by definition, f of g of x. But what is g of x? Diba that is just x minus 2. So, pwede kong palitan yan ng x minus 2 or that is f of x minus 2. So, it's like evaluating f now at x minus 2. So, that is x minus 2 squared, dito galing yung f of x natin, x minus 2 squared plus 3 times x minus 2 minus 4. Expanding that, we have x squared minus 4x plus 4 plus 3 times x minus 2 minus 4. By removing the grouping symbol, we have x squared minus 4x plus 4 plus 3x minus 6 minus 4. Then, combining like terms, we have x squared, negative 4x plus 3x is negative x, 4 minus 6 minus 4 is negative 6. So, the final answer is x squared minus x minus 6. So, this is our f circle g of x. Now, the question is, what is the domain of f circle g of x? Tulad ng sabi ko kanina, it relies on the domain of our inner function. In this case, our inner function is g. So, let's look at the domain of g. X minus 2 is a polynomial, therefore, its domain is the set of real numbers. Similarly, yung ating f circle g is a polynomial, kaya ang domain din nito ay set of real numbers. Set of real numbers din ang domain nito. Ngayon, tignan natin, yung domain ba na ito pasok doon sa domain ng g? Yes. Therefore, the domain of f circle g is also the set of real numbers. wala tayong tatanggalin. Kasi nga, pasok naman siya doon sa domain ng G. For B, we have G circle f of x. So that is equal to G of f of x. Ang inner function na natin ay yung f, ang outer function natin ay yung g. But what is f of x? That is x squared plus 3x minus 4. So, pwede kong palitan, we have g of x squared plus 3x minus 4. So, by evaluating g of x now at f of x, we have x squared plus 3x minus 4 minus 2, or that is x squared plus 3x minus 4 minus 2. And that is x squared plus 3x minus 6. And what is now the domain of this? Anong domain nito ngayon? Ang domain nito is, since this is a polynomial, set of real numbers siya. However, tignan muna natin yung domain ng inner function natin na f. The inner function has a domain set of real numbers. So, pasok ba ito doon sa domain ng f? Yes, therefore the domain of G circle f is also the set of real numbers. And for letter C, G circle f of 3 is equal to G of f of 3. Pero diba, na-show na natin doon sa letter B kanina that G of f of x is equal to x squared plus 3x minus 6. So we can evaluate this now at 3. So that is 3 squared plus 3 times 3 minus 6. So that is 9 plus 9 minus 6 or 12. And for the last example, we let f of x be equal to x squared minus 4 and g of x equals 3 square root of x. Then find f circle g of x and g circle f of x and their domains. So for our solution in A, we know that f circle g of x is equal to f of g of x. Pero ano ba itong g of x na ito? Di ba siya lang yon? So, pwede kong ilagay as f of 3 square root of x. Then, evaluating now f of x at 3 square root of x, we have 3 square root of x squared minus 4, or that is 9x minus 4. So, since our f circle g is a polynomial, ang kanyang domain ay set of real numbers. However, hindi ito yung final domain. Kasi nga, we have to check yung ating domain ng g. And since g is a square root function, kailan ba nagiging true yung square root function natin? Kung yung nasa loob is greater than or equal to 0. Therefore, for this to be true, ang domain ng g of x natin is from 0 to positive infinity. So, checking that, ito bang set of real numbers natin na ito, pasok ba dito? Not all. Diba? Kasi yung mga less than 0 na domain ng 9x minus 4, hindi pasok doon sa domain ng g. So, anong magpre-prevail? Tulad ng sabi ko kanina, basis natin yung domain ng inner function. Therefore, kung ano lang yung pasok, yun lang yung magiging final na domain. Therefore, the domain of f circle g is from 0 to positive infinity. And for letter B, g circle f of x is equal to g of f of x. So, f of x is, eto siya. So, pwede kong palitan, gagawin kong g of x squared minus 4. Then, evaluating g now, at x squared minus 4, we have 3 times the square root of x squared minus 4. So, what is now the domain of this? Since this is an square root function, kailangan yung nasa loob natin should be greater than or equal to 0, yung radicand natin. So, x squared minus 4 should be greater than or equal to 0. Or that is x squared is greater than or equal to 4. And by taking the square root, we have absolute value of x is greater than or equal to 2. And what does this mean? By compound inequality, this is equal to x is greater than or equal to 2 or x is less than or equal to negative 2. And in interval notation, that is negative infinity to negative 2 close union, kasi or siya, to positive infinity. Yun yung domain ng ating G circle F. Okay? Pero tignan muna natin, baka naman meron siyang mga hindi pwedeng isama because of the domain of F. But since yung domain ng f of x natin is the set of real numbers, kasi nga polynomial yan, then we can conclude that definitely the domain of G circle F is negative infinity to negative 2 close union close to positive infinity.